In this slidecast, we're going to look at the engineering project process, what happens in an engineering project in a little bit more detail. It covers what the exercise we did in class, using a different example. So the question we've got for this example is, how do we get from a nice greenfield site? So that's what a greenfield site looks like. You can see it's green and it's got fields. So there's nothing there, there's no buildings, no nothing. So how do we get from the greenfield site to a fully constructed building? So this diagram, we handed out these A3s to you in class. This diagram shows the process that goes on, and what we're going to do is look at each one of those stages in turn. But let's first introduce the players. So this guy here, the guy with the glasses and the beard, he's going to be our client. This guy here with the moustache and the fancy hairdo, that's our consultant. So remember, consultants are the ones that do the design work, that often do the project management. And this guy here is the contractor. The contractor is the person that's doing the construction. So it all starts with our client. He sees that bit of that greenfield site and he says, is this a good business opportunity for me? Am I going to make some money out of this? In this case, remember, in this case we're looking at a developer looking at a business opportunity. This could just as easily be a council looking at a opportunity to add something to the community, or a project that needs to satisfy a need. So they might be looking at a pipeline or a road or something like that. So in this case, remember, keep in the back of your minds, this case the driver is an opportunity. And so what he does then is he sees the opportunity and he uses his own experience to think, what's this project going to involve? He'll do a bit of research. He'll go down to the library, he'll look at about what the area is like, he'll go down to the council, he'll look at what is allowed to be built in that area, what's not. He might talk to an engineer or an architect or real estate agent, lawyers. So the engineers or the architects, he'll be asking them, what can I build here? What would work? Real estate agent, he'd be saying, what sort of developments make money? Because developers only in it for the money. Lawyers, what's going to be my legal position with this? Can I get any tax breaks off it? And bankers, are you guys going to lend me money to do this project? So he's looking at all of those and he's bringing his own experience into it. He might have built things like this before and thought, yep, this one's going to make me money, or I can do what I want to do with it, or no, it's not going to happen. So he makes a decision. Do I want to continue with this project? After all of this work here, he says, do I want to do it or not? No, that is the end of the project. If he thinks, no, I'm not going to be able to achieve what I want to achieve, no. So he just cans it, and that's the end of this project. If he says, yeah, he thinks, yeah, there's some opportunities here, it's worth exploring further. And remember, exploring further means he's going to spend money. Yes, I will. I'll spend the extra money and I'll have another little look at it. So that brings us on to the feasibility thing. He doesn't plunge straight into building it. He wants to find out a little bit more about the site, about his proposal. So he'll usually hire a consultant, which is an engineer, and he'll tell him what he wants. So this is what's called the project brief. He's saying, I want you to build me a 3-story high office block. I want you to tell me what I can do with it, how long it's going to take, how much it will cost. So the consultant doesn't have all that much information at present, so he goes away and he does some of his own investigations. He'll use his own engineering experience. He'll have discussions with council and maybe neighbours, people that know the site quite well. Might even do a quick survey of the site to see what the topography looks like. He'll visit the site, have a look around, do a geotech investigation. He'll take some soil samples and see what sort of soil it is. He'll also do hydrological investigations. He'll look at all the streams, what the water table's doing. So using all of that good engineering stuff, he'll investigate the site, and then he'll write what's called a feasibility report, which will put all of the information that he's found out here into one report. And at the end of that report, he'll say, this is what you can do with the site. This is what will work. This is what won't work. And he presents it to the client, who then thinks, okay, well, I've got a lot more information now, can I actually do what I want to do? And he might decide, no, I cannot, in which case that is the end of the project. He'll can it, he'll say, thank you very much, Mr. Consultant, I've decided not to proceed any further, and that's it. Or he might think, yeah, I can probably do what I want to do, so yes, I'm going to spend more money and get it designed. At this point in time, he may well hire the consultant. So this means that now got a formal contract between them, which is called a consultancy contract. Now we'll look at that later on. Now along the way here, there's a lot of little documents and things like that. These are the sort of documents that we're going to be looking at in this course. So keep that in mind. This is sort of an overview of the whole course. So our client decides, yes, I want to hire you. They prepare a consultancy contract. So now there is a contractual relationship. The client agrees to pay the consultant a certain amount of money. In return, the consultant will design his building for him. So now they have an agreement together. We go into the design phase. And the design phase is an iterative process. The consultant will start with some concept options. Here's option A with a flat roof, B, C, and he'll work up a quick price of what each one of these are and what the advantages and disadvantages are. He'll present it to the client who'll say, let's go with this option here, I like this option B, let's go with it. Then he'll get into the developed design, the consultant, and he'll take that option B that the client liked and develop it further. He'll look at, he'll start designing the beams, the columns. He'll be thinking about what materials we're going to use, what sort of roofing material, what sort of wall material, all that sort of stuff. So he's developing the design. At that time, when he's got a developed design, he can actually make a consent application to have it built. So while he's doing the final bit, when he's doing the detailed design, the consenting happens in parallel with it. That saves you some time. So once he's got the developed design, he can submit a consent condition, and he presents it to the client. The client says, yep, that's what I like, and then there's a lot more work for the consultant to finalize everything. He does a detailed design on the beams and the columns, windows, everything. So he's designing it properly. He's producing a full set of construction drawings. So when he's finished this process, he'll produce what's called a tender document. And the tender document tells you everything you need to know about building that building. It's an instruction manual for this is what we want you to build. It's also a contract document, so it says which will form a contract with the construction people, the contractor, and it sets out the contractual conditions too. So we'll be looking at tender documents in a lot more detail. He'll also estimate how much the whole thing is going to cost, because the client wants to know. He wants to know, how much do I have to spend on this thing? And then the client will look at it. He'll look at the design, and he'll look at the engineer's estimate, and he's got a pretty good idea of how much it's going to cost, and he'll be asking himself, can I do what I want to do for the price? He might go to the bank and say to the bank, this is how much I want to spend. Okay. If the answer is no, if it's no, it's too expensive, then he may end the project there and then. He's spent a lot of money. He's probably spent tens of thousands of dollars on this design, but he might decide, no, if I build it, I'm going to lose money, so I'm going to end the project. Or he might say, no, I'm going to change the project requirements. I'm going to have a smaller building maybe, or I'm going to make the building out of cheaper material, whatever. So he'll change the project requirements, and it'll all go back to the start, and the consultant will redesign it, do the preliminary design, develop, and keep on going through. So sometimes this design process is an iterative process. If he decides to proceed, if he thinks, yes, I can do what I want to do for a reasonable price, he will now try to find a contractor to do the job. So he says to his consultant, yep, I like it, let's do it, let's build this thing. And the next step is to find a contractor to do it, and so he asks the consultant to advertise the project or to find someone to build it. And we'll be looking at tendering in a lot more detail as well. So he goes into the tendering process, and the tendering process is trying to find someone who can do the job to the right quality, at the right price and the right time. So all these construction companies, they want to do it because that's the way they make money. They say, we want to do the work, and they are all given a copy of the tender document, and they're asked to submit tender bids, tender submissions. So they all put together their little tender bids, their tender submissions, and they submit them to the consultant. The consultant looks at them all. Included in these tender bids will be, this is why we can do the work, this is what our resources are, this is who the people are that are going to do it, this is how much we're going to build it for, so there'll be a price in there. And the consultant looks at them, says, yeah, these guys are really good, or these guys are really rubbish, or this price is too high, or this price is too low, and he puts it all together, he analyzes it and puts it in a tender report, which says these are the people that put in prices, this is how much they've submitted, this is their attributes, this is how good they are at, they've done jobs like this before or they haven't, they've got resources to do it, they haven't. So then the tender report goes to the client, and the client makes the last decision. Yes, I want to award the contract to these guys here. They're the ones that put in the best tender bid, the one that's most suitable for us. So he will then instruct the consultant to send a letter of acceptance. So the consultant sends a letter of acceptance to XYZ contractors and says, you've won the contract, let's get on with building it. Once that's sent, there is a contractual relationship between the contractor and the client there, and we'll talk about that a lot more. It is a very serious thing being in a contractual relationship. It's like being married to someone. There's all sorts of conditions, there's obligations, and there's rules. So the contractor's got the thing, he knows he's going to make some money. Now he has to build, so they put together a formal contract agreement, they sign it. There's things that have to happen before they can start construction, bonds and insurances, we'll look at those, and then they can start construction. During construction, the consultant will actually be watching the work and making sure that it's being built as required. So he'll be monitoring the works. He'll also be answering questions from the contractor, details about, what do you mean with this design detail and things like that. The contractor needs to get all the resources together to build it. He needs to figure out what his timing's going to be, what his program's going to be, and then he needs to manage the process to make it happen. When he's built the works, so he spends several months building it, he goes to the consultant and says the building is complete, and at that point the consultant will have a bit of a look at it. He'll have completed the building, and then he'll need to commission it. So he'll turn on the water systems, make sure all the taps work, he'll make sure the electricity is on, that all the lights work, everything that's required so that when the client gets the building, everything works. So that's what the commissioning phase is all about. When he's finished the commissioning, he goes to the consultant and says, we've finished everything, we've finished everything that we've been required to build on the contract, and then the consultant goes and checks. If the consultant thinks yes, he's finished everything, he'll issue a certificate of practical completion, which says this contractor has finished, done what he's supposed to do under the contract, that contract is now finished. Then the building is handed over to the client. Now the client has got possession of it, and he can start using it to make money, or he can sell it on. So that's the whole process. It's quite complicated. As I said before, this is an overview of the whole engineering project process, and we'll be looking at several parts of this, several stages as we go. So in particular we'll be looking at tendering, tender document, the tender report. So we're really looking at this part of the project, and then we're looking at this part here, the construction. So those are the bits that we're spending a lot of time on in this course. So regard this as your guide as to what we're covering in this course.